Welcome to the PressBox.
Welcome to the PressBox. I am Keith Gibson. Alongside with me today is Matthew Gocken. Matthew is a broadcaster for Neuhoff Media Sports. And Matthew, thank you for joining me again. This is the second time here on the PressBox.
I know, I'm starting to feel important around here, but thank you once again for having me on the show.
You're welcome. I enjoy having you, Matthew. Now, we're going to talk a lot of different things today. We're going to talk Illini football. We're going to talk maybe a little Illini basketball, throw in there a little bit. Cardinal baseball, Cub baseball. We'll talk Bears, Colts. We'll talk a little Johnny Manziel, Johnny football. And then we'll talk a Little League World Series as well, which is going on. And then we'll talk high school football. We'll end it there. And, a lot of things happening. We're a week away from the IHSA high school football season. So, Matthew, we'll start out today talking Illini football. They get started a week from Saturday, the 29th of August. And Youngstown State. What do you think of the Illini football team?
Well, Youngstown State, of course, coming in against the Illini. So if you take a look at the schedule, it starts off with 3 of the 4 non-conference games that are very winnable for the Illini. You talked about a week from Saturday, Youngstown State, and then Western Kentucky, both of them at home. I think those are 2 key games for the Illini. Of course, they named the starter Wes Lunt this past week. So we'll just have to wait and see. A lot of improvements can be made on both sides of the ball. And
I think they made the right call with Wes Lunt as a starting quarterback because he deserves it. And he has a reputation already, putting up big numbers before he transferred to Illinois, and he's the right guy for the job.
Exactly, and you're talking about a kid who as a true freshman, started for Oklahoma State, then got hurt, but he comes back to Illinois. He's from Rochester, so I think it's good for the Illini that they pick him up. And, of course, Riley O'Toole, wasn't bad, but Wes Lunt is obviously the better quarterback, so I think they made the right move there. But starting out with Youngstown State, you definitely have to put a big impression to the fans and to yourself in that first half. They let Southern Illinois hang with them all last year, and that's how the season ended up. They only beat Purdue, had a couple of wins for the Illini, so they definitely have to show something against Youngstown State and Western Kentucky at home.
And, Matthew, I think Youngstown State's that first half, you're right, is very, very important for the simple fact that if you do not come out and put on a show offensively and defensively and just handle them the way you should, you're going to have a lot of people scratching their heads. Because there's already a lot of people, let's be honest, there's a lot of people already scratching their heads saying this team's awful.
Exactly, and right now I have them at 4-8. We can talk about the schedule here in just a moment. The so-called experts have them at 4-8, so we'll just have to wait and see. But
I didn't know I was an expert, but thank you very much.
But Illinois definitely has to start out tough and strong against Youngstown State to really impress themselves. And I talked about the fans because right now, season tickets are not going that well, and a lot of teams and a lot of players don't want to drive over to Champaign and watch a team who can barely hang with Youngstown State. They're definitely not going to go to the home games in the Big Ten.
What I like about having my own show, Matt, I can say what I want. And here's the thing I think about that. When you sell tickets for $9.99 for any home game, what's that tell you about the state of the program right now? It's awful. Tim Beckman has not done a great job at this program. He's maybe heard it more. But the question is, you get rid of him, who do you bring in? Who wants this job is the big question. And if he does not go 3-1 through the first 4 non-conference games, because I think at Washington, number 25, in the nation, preseason ranked, the Illini aren't going to beat them.
No.
So you're looking at going 3-1 in the non-conference, basically the preseason. I don't want to call it preseason, but you've got to go 3-1 in those 4 games. If you don't,
they're called tune-up games for a reason.
That's exactly right. But if you don't go 3-1 in those 4 games, Tim Beckman's got to be out.
I agree with that. And we're talking about the 3 of 4: Youngstown State at home, then Western Kentucky at home. Very 2 easy winnable games. At Washington, the loss, and then home against Texas State. So the 4 non-conference, they should go 3-1. But I'm afraid that game 3 at Washington, if they lose, can they bounce back against Texas State?
Well, and Western Kentucky and Texas State are not going to be pushovers. I don't think Youngstown State's going to be a pushover either, for the simple fact that our defense couldn't stop my grandma last year.
Exactly, and Illinois, the past 2 years under Tim Beckman, has given up more than 30 points per game on average. So the defense needs a lot of improvement, even though they have a lot of guys coming back. that could be good or could be bad, but they definitely have to improve on defense.
Well, I've said all along, from last year starting this year, we started talking about Illini football. The good news is there's a lot of defensive starters back. But that's also the bad news because they were awful last year. Mm-hmm. And the offense really wasn't that bad last year. I mean, they put up some nice points. They played a great game against Ohio State. If we had a lick of defense, they could have won that game. They don't.
The game that I think they should have won is the game against Penn State last year. That game goes into overtime. I think they got beat 24-17, 24-21, something like that. I can't remember. But like you said, you have to stop someone on defense. And with the Big Ten, a lot of high-powered offenses with Ohio State, but just losing Braxton Miller, Michigan State. And if you take a look, a couple of the best running backs in the whole entire conference, if not, around the NCAA, because when you go to Wisconsin, Nebraska, those are pretty two powerhouse teams in the Big Ten.
Let's talk about their Big Ten schedule right now, Matt. You're looking at your first Big Ten game is at Nebraska. That's a loss.
That's a loss.
Then you come home and face Purdue on October 4th. And in my eyes, I think you and I both, that's the only win they get in the Big Ten conference schedule.
Exactly, and that is a must-win game. Tim Beckman in his 2 seasons, 1-14 in the Big Ten, and his only win against Purdue last year. So he has to win that game against Purdue once again. Illinois winning last year on the road, they get Purdue at home again, and of course they pick up West Lunt on offense to help them out a little bit, but that Purdue game is a must-win game.
Then you go to Wisconsin. That's a loss. Mm-hmm. At home against Minnesota on homecoming, it's an 11 o'clock homecoming game. Are you kidding me? Homecoming at 11 a.m. What's that tell you about the program? You can't play a 3 o'clock game, let festivities happen, everything like that. And Minnesota really isn't a great team, but I don't think we're better than Minnesota.
Exactly. And, for college football, you have to have the whole package. You have to have the offense, the defense, the special teams. So when you take a look at it, West Lunt might be one of the top quarterbacks in the Big Ten. We don't know yet. But for a guy who goes to Oklahoma State and starts as a true freshman, certainly tells you something. But, top to bottom, I think Minnesota's better.
Yeah, and then we go to Ohio State. And even though they do not have Braxton Miller, I'm pretty sure whoever they put in at quarterback is going to be all right. And so that's a loss. And it's a tough place to play at Ohio State. Then we come back for Iowa and Penn State at home. And Iowa's not a great team. Dad's Day. That's a day I'm probably looking to take old man Bosco to an Illini game this year. So, but that's not a guaranteed win. That's, if you look at it right now on paper, that's a loss. Penn State, that's a loss. Then you end with in-state rival at Northwestern.
Exactly, and if we can go back for just a moment, Iowa, once again, top to bottom better. Penn State, according to the experts, once again, the second-best quarterback in the Big Ten behind Braxton Miller with Christian Hackenberger. But, Penn State, one of those teams that can get going, and, once again, it's going to be tough. Even though it is at home, I just think Penn State is too much for Illinois.
So here's my question to you, Matthew, is what does the Illini program have to do to right the ship? Because you cannot bring in big recruits with continued losing. You can't bring in recruits who are going to go to Ohio State, to Texas, to Michigan, to Notre Dame, to, heck, even Nebraska, Wisconsin, either other schools in your own conference you're losing out to because you have a horrible program. And I'm not sure what's going to right that ship.
Exactly, and if you take a look, if we go back once again, if Northwestern and Illinois have somewhat of the same wins and losses, same record, I don't think Illinois will have a chance against Northwestern. Pat Fitzgerald is just too good. And it's another one of those games on the road. But going back to Illinois, if they do fire Tim Beckman, who do they put in? You look maybe if Florida has a bad season, maybe bring in Muschamp. There's just not a lot of guys that want the Illinois job right now.
That's my biggest point. You can go after guys like Muschamp. You can go after guys like, it doesn't matter. The guy, the guy who was at EIU, he's at Bowling Green now. Who really wants it? I wouldn't want this job. It's an awful job. Is it pay great? It's not bad. I mean, better than what we make now, but I wouldn't want the hassle, wouldn't want the headaches in a program that's awful. Now, would I like to challenge? I'd love that challenge. But I don't think it's set up to win in the next 5 years.
They definitely have to start getting big recruits out of Chicago, other neighboring states up north. maybe a couple guys out of Indiana. But, you continue to bring in 2, 3, star recruits. It's not going to get much better. But also you have to have a top-tier coach that can turn that program around. Now, I personally don't think it's Tim Beckman, but once again, it goes back to, if you do fire Beckman, who do you bring in? Someone out of Division II, a Northern Illinois. You go back to things like that. So right now, looking at Illinois' schedule, they first have to start out a win against Youngstown State, take the 3 of 4 non-conference against Western Kentucky and Texas State. In that game versus Purdue, they have to win.
Yeah, they won't. They're not a bowl team.
No,
not even close. And 4-8 is a stretch in my mind too, because I really think they could get beat. They might go. Actually, to be honest with you, they might go 1-3 in non-conference, and I wouldn't be surprised.
Exactly. Youngstown State, they definitely have to show up because it's one of those things. You let a team hang around, well, guess what? You're going to get beat. Western Kentucky, that could be. I'm not much on Western Kentucky, but. Once again, I go back to at Washington. It's if Illinois starts 2-0, they get absolutely throttled at Washington. I'm afraid that may have a rollover effect.
Well, I agree with you, and 2 words for you: Appalachian State. No, we're not Michigan, but it could happen.
Exactly.
So we'll move on from the Illini. We think we're both in agreement, Matt, that it's going to be a long season. Back on the press box here, it is Keith Gibson alongside Matthew Gocken, where we'll talk a little high school football from around the Vermilion County area, because that's where we're broadcasting from up here in the 1490 WDAN studios. And we want to thank Neuhoff Media for allowing me and Matthew to join us this afternoon to broadcast this podcast. It's been a couple weeks since we've been able to do it. So we're here inside the studio this afternoon getting it done. And we got an exciting thing. We've got the Danville RiverHawks coach, Kris coming on a little bit later with us. And then right after Matt and I get done, we'll have Scott Warren, the Flora High School, my alma mater, head football coach online on the air with us to talk a little high school football. But, Matt, let's talk football around Vermilion County right now. We've got the Vermilion Valley Conference. You've got St. Joe. We've got Danville. We've got 9 teams that we cover around the area that you and I see personally all the time. And, it's an exciting time. We went all summer. We waited and waited. We knew it was coming, and within a week it'll be here.
Well, the thing I like with football is Thursday you catch the Thursday night NFL game. Friday you catch high school football. Saturday you get college football. Sunday, more NFL football. Monday night you get another football game. You wait Tuesday, Wednesday, then Thursday consumes your life all over again. So football rolls around this time of year, of course, and rolls around your schedule. I think you start planning some things out of the way just to catch a football game. But for high school football, it should be another great year. Of course, all the teams in the Vermilion Valley Conference set and ready to go. New coach in Georgetown and some other places, so they were featured the other day in the commercial news. But it should be another interesting year, and we'll have all those games on 94.9 K-Rock, one of our sister stations.
Yeah, definitely. And, we'll have on air, and I'll put the podcast up starting next Thursday. It'll be called the PressBox as well, and I've got a sponsor, my first sponsor of a show, Perry Dable of American Family Insurance. We're going to do a high school preview football show here coming up on Thursdays on 1490 WDAN, and I'll also put it as a podcast on the PressBox on Facebook as well, so you can listen to it. But very exciting, as you mentioned, Matt, new head coach in Georgetown, Nathan West. Been an assistant coach for the last couple of years, but the Buffaloes coming off kind of a I will call it a disappointing 5-5 because I really thought they had a lot of talent last year.
Exactly, and that's one of the things that was mentioned in the paper just this past week was they had a lot of talent, but they went 5-4, barely slipped into the playoffs, lost in the first round, and they had a good young quarterback in Ethan Sleva, a couple good wide receivers. No, Troy Rodriguez at running back, who I think was all Vermilion County last season. He
led the Vermilion Valley Conference in rushing and returns this year, so that's a big return for him.
So they got a couple wide receivers, Riley Goodwin back at receiver, Matt Willman on the lines for the Buffaloes. So, once again, they have the talent, but can they put it all together and make a deep run and challenge, Bismarck, Salt Fork? Can they get the coal bucket back again? So a lot of questions for the Buffaloes.
Right, and I've been putting together some previews, which you'll be able to catch online here in the next couple days as well, of all the teams we cover. And I looked at Bismarck, who ran the table last year, 9-0 in the regular season, only to fall to Spring Valley Hall in the first game of the playoffs. But they bring back some talent, too, and they should be a contender again this year.
Yeah, exactly. And it always seems, earlier in the 2000s, it was kind of Salt Fork, Westville going back-to-back in state. But here of lately, it's really been Bismarck for the past couple of years. So Bismarck, I think, would be the early favorite once again, and we'll see if Salt Fork and Westville and Georgetown, Oakwood, other teams like that. And another surprising team from last year is Milford.
Milford, who finished the season at 5-5 as well. But, we talk about Salt Fork. I looked it up earlier, and 14 straight years under Brian Plotner, they have made the playoffs. That's impressive.
That is very impressive.
Very impressive. 14 years he's been the head coach. 14 years he's made the playoffs. So it'll be interesting to see. I have Bismarck and Salt Fork. The September 19th game between those two, I think, will determine who wins the conference there. You look at Westville, very young football team. Have some growing pains, I think. Coach Goodlove, his 20th year at the helm as a Westville Tigers head coach. I don't see them, middle of the pack. Milford the same way. I think they'll be middle of the pack again as well this year. And then you have Oakwood and Hoopston/Schlarman. Matt, I don't know if the winner of that game, maybe their only win of the year. Oakwood, they've got Parker Lee at quarterback, who I like Parker. I think he's a guy who's going to, can make some plays out of the pocket and move around, and a great kid at that. But they struggle mightily because they have no line. So I don't see either of those teams really doing much at all.
Exactly, and it's going to be tough. Every team goes through those in and outs, up and down years, and then a couple times where they don't have a winning season for 4 or 5 years, and they turn things around. They get new talent, new guys in there. So, really we'll just have to wait and see. We can talk Illinois, we can talk about Colts, Bears. Every high school football game, it's all on paper. That's
right.
How they play the game.
That's exactly right, Matthew. So we're excited for the high school football season. We're going to take a short break, and then when we come back, I think Matthew's got to take off here on us. But when I come back, I will have Flora High School head football coach Scott Warner on the phone with me, and we'll talk Little Wolves football as they prepare for the 2014 season. You're listening to PressBox with Keith Gibson. Back here on the Press Box, and with me now on the phone, Flora Wolves head football coach Scott Warren. And Scott, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Scott, my alma mater, your third season getting ready to start at Flora High School, and how exciting is it for you to kind of, get your third year started and get everything going?
We're very excited. At the off season, we had a pretty good off season and a great summer, and we're getting really close to go time here, and the kids are anxious, the coaches are anxious. We're ready to roll.
Now, your first year at FHS, 1-8, real big struggle for you, but bounced back nicely last year with a 4-5 record. Came out with 2 wins right out of the gate. A 5-game losing streak that had to be tough, but the Little Illini is not the same Little Illini used to be.
No, there's some bigger schools in there, and we were the smallest school in the big school conference, which is not an excuse, but we struggled within the division, and out of the division we won 4 games, like you mentioned, and we were a field goal away from making the playoffs, which stinks, but that's why you can't take anything for granted, and every inch matters.
Now, you're looking at this season, big question is who's going to be under center for the Flora Wolves?
Right now we're looking at junior Ian Lieb and sophomore Kris Scott. We haven't quite decided yet. They've both done a good job 7-on-7. And we told them we're going to make that decision very soon.
Now, will there be an opportunity maybe you go with a 2-quarterback system?
I don't like that, but this is as close as I've ever been to doing that, and we might do that, especially the first couple of weeks.
Yeah, you got Marshall and Robinson weeks 1 and 2, so 2 big games right out the gate. Marshall beat you 30-8 last year, and then Robinson 40-13. So it's not easy getting Marshall, Robinson, Casey back to start a season.
No, we jumped right into the fire, and there's not any off weeks at all. Every week's a challenge, and that's why we have to be ready and ready to go full go as soon as the season starts.
Now, as far as impact players on offense, what are we looking at the backfield, Scott?
We're looking at senior Logan Stone. He was Trey Thompson's backup last year, and Trey graduated. And then backing him up will be Eric Zudi. He's a junior, and we run a lot of zone stuff and zone blocking schemes, and both running backs are very good at finding the holes.
That's a big major part. And to find the holes, though, you have to have linemen. So how's your size up front? You going to have some guys back from a year ago, or are you going to have a little bit new look on the line?
It's more than a little bit, Keith. We have all new offensive linemen, a couple juniors and 3 sophomores, so we're going to be young and inexperienced, and not really a lot of size, but they've been good so far. Very coachable, good group of boys, and we might have to be patient here in the early going, but we need to coach them up, and they are willing to do anything we ask, and that's all you can ask for as a coach.
Now, with both quarterbacks, Lieb and Scott, able to pass the ball a little bit. What do you got on the outside? Anything, or are you going to run more of a wing T type offense that's kind of more driven-based run game?
We're going to spread out, but we'll run too. But we have really good receivers. Junior Damian Dillinger and senior Tristan Lineker both return as starters from last year. Also, Logan Smith, we'll put him in the backfield a little, put him at slot receiver, and we'll try to be creative with ways getting him the ball.
Now, we know offense, that's everybody's favorite thing to watch because you put points on the scoreboard. But really, defensive is the side of the ball that helps you win championships and helps you win ball games. Defensively, what kind of defense you looking at running, Scott, and where are you going to kind of look to have impacts for your ball club this year?
Well, we're going to switch things up a little bit. Some weeks it'll be basically a 4-3, some weeks a 4-2-5. Junior Colton Delaney is going to be a 3-year starter at linebacker. Senior Mitch Den will be a linebacker also, and sophomore Trevor Nicholson. Defensive tackles, both sophomore starters, Josh Martin, who actually started some games last year as a freshman for us, and Dylan Persinger will be clogging up the middle. So we're looking for big things from those guys.
Well, that helps too, especially with Martin having a little experience for you up in the middle, because a lot of these teams in the LIC like to run the football up the gut.
Yes, very much so, and you have to be strong and quick and ready to pop the pads.
Now, as far as your 14 schedule goes, the first 3 weeks, that's a killer for you. I mean, I don't understand how that's even fair. But then you look at Lawrenceville, Olney, Newton, Paris, and that's 3 of the next 4 at home. That's a big advantage, too. Being able to play at Dancy Field, 3 of the next 4, so even if you struggle in the first 3, you're coming home.
Yeah, we have 5 home games this year, so we got to take advantage of that. And Lawrenceville's a good, solid 2A program. They've had some success the last couple of years. That's not going to be easy. And Olney, with Coach Music, has things turned around. And we'll be at Olney, but Newton will be at home too. And you got to defend your home turf and take care of business when you do get home games.
Now, coaches are all back this year for you, I take, in your 3rd season. Coach Tackett, Coach Gruball.
Yes, Coach Brian Tackett is the head baseball coach here. Also, he's our defensive coordinator.
And one heck of a great guy.
Oh yeah, I try not to tell him too much because I don't want him to get the big head, but he is a great guy. And Rich Gruball does our line, offensive and defensive line. His brother John Gruball does the lower levels defense. And Rendell Flood, who actually played for us here, he's a running back and went and played at Greenville College. He does the offense for the lower groups, and then Bryce Capper does the line for the freshmen.
Now, I know numbers have kind of been an issue with you, Scott, too. How many guys you got out this year?
We got 53 guys out this year. We had 64 last year, a lot of new kids last year, and a lot of new kids this year. We've had a lot of kids move out, but then we have, I think, 13, not counting freshmen, 13 first-year players, which is great. We want those kids to go out, but it would be great to have them all 4 years. The coaching staff, the assistants have done a great job of recruiting the players and the kids, and I think our next step, and I mentioned it in a meeting, and not to look ahead, the season is about to start, but the next step might be to recruit some of these parents and get them involved in the football program and get them excited about football.
Yeah, I remember back when both of us played, we had big numbers. That's because parents were involved, And, players were getting kids who weren't playing involved, too, and so that's important. And but it's nice to have over 50. I mean, that's a big number compared to what it was just a few years ago, too.
That's a big number for us. You look 4 or 5 years ago, we were low 40s, freshman through senior, and it takes a lot of work and a lot of time and patience, and it's not going to happen overnight. Rome wasn't built in a day, and we just got to continue to be positive and get these kids involved and get the community involved.
You're exactly right. Every time I come back home to visit, it's nice to come back home because you do have that pride, of being a Wolves fan, of having a Wolf player on the field, and you can feel it. And Dancy Field is a very historic place. It's a very special place to myself. I know it's a special place to you, and a special place to a lot of guys who have played there. So it's a fun atmosphere. The crowd will get out. And Scott, one last thing is, what's your real expectations from this season?
That's a good question this year. Last year, we wanted to make the playoffs. We were preached all off season about getting 5 wins. This year, we want to be competitive. We only have 5 seniors. We don't want to disrespect the seniors. We're going out and representing the community, the school, and the program every night. That's practice and games. And I hate the word rebuilding. Everyone said this is a rebuilding year. I don't like to use that because I feel like it disrespects the seniors, but we want these seniors to have the best season possible. But we're looking at this also as a 2-year project, and we're going to have, besides the 5 seniors, everyone else back next year. So we need to be competitive and improve every day.
Now you got Paris on the schedule this year too, which, if I'm not mistaken, it's your first time playing them, correct?
Yes, that's correct. They come to Flora.
Right, and that's a school of 588. I mean, that's a huge difference between you guys at 329 is what IHSA has you right now at your class enrollment to 588. That's a big difference.
That is a big difference, and sometimes people ask, why do people talk about sizes of school and football? Why is it such a big deal? Number one is you don't qualify for the postseason. You're not automatically going to the postseason. You have to qualify, and football is a numbers game. The more boys you have to choose from in the school, the better off, because depth really matters more in football than any other sport.
Well, exactly, and especially when you got 11 guys on each side of the football, and a lot of times kids are playing on both sides. Your guys who are really athletic, your big impact players are playing both ways, and it's hard to replace them when you don't have the depth that some of these other schools have, like only 626 kids. That's a big enrollment.
That is, and it makes a difference, but like I told the assistants and like we tell the kids every day, you can't use excuses. You can't look for excuses. You just got to buckle up and go hard. We will coach them up as long as they try, and so far we've had that. The kids' attitude's been great, and you just got to coach them up and go from there.
You're exactly right. Scott, I want to thank you for joining us on this week's edition of the Press Box. Coach Scott Warren from the Flora Wolves, who are looking to make the playoffs for the first time in his tenure in his 3rd year. And we'll be back with more here on the Press Box. We'll talk a little bit baseball. We'll talk NFL. You're listening to the Press Box with Keith Gibson. Welcome back to the Press Box with Keith Gibson. Alongside me today, Neuhoff Media sports broadcaster Matthew Gocken. And Matthew, we talked a little Illini. Come back here, we'll talk a little Bears, Colts, and Johnny Manziel. The Bears, it's Friday night. We're recording this here this afternoon. They've got the Seattle Seahawks this evening in their 3rd preseason game. The Colts have looked pretty good in preseason, too. What do you see out of both clubs so far?
Well, for the Bears, first off, they improved dramatically on defense. That was one of the things that they struggled with. But, going back, it's always, is Jay Cutler the guy at quarterback? I think he has done well, but when it always comes down to it, and even if you flash back last year, they can't separate themselves for the Packers. Aaron Rodgers comes back week 17. Winner goes to the playoffs, loser goes home, and the Bears fail. So, Jay Cutler, he's a good quarterback. The Bears are a good team, but are they an elite team? I don't think so. For the Colts, easier division. I think truly a better quarterback. You got the Texans, the Jaguars, and the Titans. It's not that deep of a division. Colts, like you talked about, a good preseason so far. I mean, losing a couple games, they let the Giants come back in their last game. But, the Colts, once the regular season comes around, a decently easy schedule. I say that because they start at Denver and home against the Philadelphia Eagles. So it's not a very, the Bears and the Colts could be right back at the top of their divisions.
I think the Bears have made big strides, and they signed Santonio Holmes to be their third wide receiver last week. And a lot of people are a little iffy, and I'm one of them. But I think it was a good move because I think if he stays out of trouble and remains healthy, he could be a big guy that can go across the middle and catch 8 to 10-yard passes and keep the offense moving. Because you've got two big targets in Alshon Jeffrey and Brandon Marshall on the outside. Santonio Holmes gives you a guy, possession receiver guy, and I like that a lot in him. Forte, in a lot of the mock fantasy drafts that I've done already, he's going top 2-3 guys, and sometimes even number 1 overall, just because of the potential that he has to put up big numbers.
Well, he's more of an all-purpose back where, Adrian Peterson is going to rush the ball 20, 30 times, whatever. Him, Forte, LaShawn McCoy, they'll rush the ball, 15 times, but they'll also catch 6-7 passes out of the backfield. So they're more of an all-purpose running back, Matt Forte is. And I go back to, I think, NFL nowadays, you can have Forte, you can have Alshon Jeffrey, Brandon Marshall. Your defense can have a stacked line. But if you don't have a quarterback, you're not going to win in the NFL anymore.
We've talked about this many times before, even on air, on podcast and just between us. But I agree with you totally. You look at the teams who drafted first in the NFL draft, and what they did not have? A quarterback. But I think Jay Cutler is liking Mark Trestman. I think he's getting along. I think you'll see this offense flourish this year in Chicago. The defense is another story. They bring in Jared Allen. The defensive line's very much upgraded. The linebacking core, you still have Lance Briggs, but there's some question marks there. And then you have the DBs, besides Peanut Tillman. And, what do you got? You don't know what you have at the other corner. You don't know what you have at safety yet. They still haven't named starting safeties. It's very up in the air. And after Chris Conte let up that big pass to the Packers,
I was just getting ready to say that.
That's big question marks that they have right now in their defense. Now, the Colts, I think the biggest question mark for them is what will Trent Richardson give them in the backfield?
Going back to the Bears thing, I never said that Jay Cutler wasn't not a great quarterback. I think he's, above average, above the, halfway mark. But going to the Colts, Andrew Luck does a good job. They give up their first-round pick for Trent Richardson, and last year he didn't do anything, and it's when you watch the NFL draft, you build so much hype. And me, personally, as a Colts fan, you're going, our first-round pick is Trent Richardson. You have all these guys on the board, and he didn't do anything for us this year. So, going back, when the deal happened, I thought, that's great. Donald Brown just got hurt. Vic Ballard's hurt. So he can be that horse on, first, second down, or if we need him at 3rd and 1, just give it to him up the middle, and surely he can get there. Heisman Trophy winner. So, Trent Richardson definitely has to produce this year.
He's averaging 2.4 yards a carry this preseason.
Not good again.
That's not going to get it done. But we talk Bears, we talk Colts. Let's move to Johnny Football. Johnny Football fined $12,000 for making an obscene gesture. Let's just be honest, Matt. It's my show. I can say what I want. He flipped him the bird. He said F you to the Washington Redskins in a preseason game last Monday. And now he's fined $12,000. That's a lot of money for flipping a bird.
It's a lot of money for flipping the bird, but to Johnny Manziel, it's okay. I'll write the check. Where do you want me to sign it? So, $12,000 for a finger is actually a lot of money. I'd like to have my fingers worth $12,000, but to him, it's nothing. He's laughing at ESPN. He's laughing at the NFL right now because $12,000, that's nothing to him anymore.
Well, and the other thing coming out today is also that the Browns may be looking at going to a 2-quarterback system. They're saying it's on the table, possibly to use that. Is that the right thing in the NFL? No. You need stability at quarterback. So either you go with Hoyer or you go with Manziel. Is Manziel mature enough to play in the NFL? No. Manziel reminds me of Ryan Leaf. So I'm not a big Manziel fan. Do I think he's talented? Yes. Do I think he's got the right head on his shoulders to be an NFL quarterback? No. He reminds me of this generation of athletes everywhere when I say that he is not mature, he does what he wants, has no respect, and has no discipline to play the game the proper way. Maybe I'm getting old, maybe I'm old school, but these players today do not understand what it's like to go through and be a professional. So that's my take on that. That's Johnny Manziel. That's all I'm going to say on it.
Well, here's the thing. They did announce Brian Hoyer as starting quarterback for week 1 for the Browns. Decently, 3 so-so games. I think 2 of the first 3 are AFC North opponents. My prediction here, Browns start 0-3. Week 4 is their bye. Week 5 they'll go with Johnny Manziel. Yeah, he could win week 5. He could win week 6. He could win week 7, get on a winning streak. But at the end of the day, I don't think he wins 8 games, gets him to 500, even maybe 6. The Browns are definitely going to struggle. I don't ever see them going anywhere close to the playoffs. But then you lose Josh Gordon, too. So, that's definitely going to hurt him on offense as well. But for Johnny Manziel, Tim Tebow can play in the league.
That's my biggest question. Where is Tim Tebow?
He's on the SEC network.
Well, I understand that, but Tim Tebow is a winner, and there's a lot of people that don't like Tim Tebow. I was a guy that didn't believe in Tim Tebow until I had a roommate, Mr. Samuel Irwin, who loved the Florida Gators and loved Tim Tebow, and I got to watch a few Tebow games, watch him in the NFL. The man's a proven winner. I mean, he wins. He fights hard. He's got more heart than probably half the NFL players. But yet he's on the SEC network and not given a chance. And I don't think that's right. And I'm going to go on a tangent here because Tim Tebow should be in the NFL playing somewhere. Jacksonville, Tennessee, Oakland, Arizona. He should be playing in the NFL somewhere. He's proven he can win. What screwed him over were the Jets. Rex Ryan screwed him over by getting him there, and then they don't do anything with him. Oh, it's throwing motions, it's throwing motions that. I don't care if he throws overhead. If as long as it gets there and you win consistently with him at quarterback, what's the issue? Is it a media circus? Well, who cares about the media circus? The man's liked. Go with it. That's my tangent for the day.
Well, Tim Tebow, I know we talked about, what was his winning streak? 4, 5, 6. He won a playoff game, but just kind of like Tim Tebow, you played in the SEC conference, which is, undoubtedly the best conference in football. But just when the NFL, I think it's a completely different game. So, who knows? Tim Tebow, I don't think he could ever be back in the league. Johnny Manziel will never be a elite quarterback, I don't think. And there was a poll out that just under 70% of NFL players think that he will be a successful quarterback. And I talked about this earlier this week. What is successful anymore?
Right.
Is that a starting quarterback job? Hey, I started in the NFL. Is that winning a playoff game? Is it winning a Super Bowl? Is it winning more than a Super Bowl? So I don't know what successful means, but I think he will be the Cleveland Browns starter for a couple years, but I don't think he'll go any farther than that.
No, I agree. I'm in total agreement with you. Tim Tebow was successful to me. He won a playoff game. He was a winner, but yet he's not playing in the NFL because people didn't want the media circus. Something's not right there, but it's all a business. And so, it is what it is. Let's talk a little Little League World Series here, Matthew. Jackie Robinson West out of Chicago playing Las Vegas Saturday at 2:30 for the championship and the U.S. championship, I should say. Pretty impressive for a team from Illinois. Kind of makes you a little proud, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it's always good to see young players like that, just at 13 years old, doing all the right things, baseball fundamentals. So it's good to see. And then, who knows? Anything can happen in baseball. You have to have the right pitching, batting, defense. So who knows? We'll just have to wait and see.
My favorite thing about the Little League World Series is the fact that it's pure. It is pure baseball. Those kids are out there playing the game for the love of it. And, there's no high-priced players, anything like this. Even though Monet Davis, or whatever her name is, the young lady, one of her autographs on a Little League Baseball went for $500 on eBay last night, which I'm thinking, good night. We're already marketing these kids at 12 years old. Coming up next, we'll have an interview with Danville RiverHawks' new head coach, Kris Bell, right here on the Press Box with Keith Gibson. Welcome back to the Press Box. Keith Gibson alongside with me this afternoon, Coach Kris Bell, the head coach of the Danville RiverHawks. Coach, glad to have you here on the Press Box today.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Coach, you were just named the head coach a few weeks ago, and we had a short little interview with you then. But since then, how have things progressed with the RiverHawks? I know you guys have had some tryouts here lately. How are things coming along there?
Well, we had a few workouts, and one thing I'm really excited about is that the tryouts officially begin this Saturday. I'll be heading up to Chicago at the Quest Multiplex. About 150 free agents are going to be there, so it's going to be bananas.
That's a lot of free agents to have. Now, you guys, your team's going to have, what, 12? Probably 12 guys?
15,
and you signed one already, and his name is?
Matt Neville from Champaign, yes.
Matt was a long-time great basketball player around the area, so you guys have got a little bit of local talent already for you, which is huge.
Yes, it is, and actually, we just had a basketball back-to-school camp, and Matt showed up, and he really put on the show. He walked in, hit about 20 three-pointers in a row, and that's before he missed one. So he's definitely a sharpshooter, and he showed it. I was really impressed. So he's definitely going to be a great asset to us, spreading the floor and letting him do his thing.
Now, for him to be able to shoot the three, though, you're going to have to probably work a little inside-outside. So this weekend up in Chicago, and you guys are going to Indy, too. Then you got to try out here in Danville. But this weekend, you're probably going to be looking for some big men, correct?
Yeah, definitely. The owners and I will be there, and we're definitely shopping for some big men. And we're hoping to bring some tall talent to Danville.
Well, yeah, of course. You know, you said when we spoke last that you want to play a little up and down game. You know, you want to have the guys have fun, always moving, but you're defensive minded.
Yes.
So not only are you looking for a big man, though, but you're probably going to look for a big man who can defend.
Yes, there's a lot of talented shot blockers out there that can get up and get the ball just by the moment you let it go. So we're looking at seeing if we can really get to those guys and make an impression on them.
Now, what do you think it'll take for those guys to come down here? I mean, it's not a long trip from Chicago, but will they have to relocate down here, for the season? You guys play 20 games, 10 on the road, 10 at home at the David S. Palmer, but they'll have to relocate here for the winter, right?
Yeah, the team owners are really good, and in fact, they are in process right now building some relationships and partnerships with some of our local realtors and all of that. So definitely looking at getting them housed here, and they will be able to, hang out with us as a community, and that's what we're looking for, being able to not only play here, but be a part of our community.
And that's what's great about the RiverHawks. You guys have really came in and really put your foot forward with the community, reaching out with the Boys and Girls Club and reaching out and doing things. You want to make it a community involvement. And that's, to me, that's what's big in this city, is the fact that you are getting involved. You're trying to get, teach the young kids the right way to do things. And that's very, very important. But also, you want a good, successful team on the floor.
Absolutely.
So you want a good mix of community involvement, but you want guys who can play the game as well, and not just put on a show, but a team aspect, and that's big.
It is, and when I get asked all the time, from emails to text messages, what kind of guys are we looking for? And that's the type we're looking for, the great guys who know how to do both, be able to play the game, be coachable, but at the same time be able to reach out to our kids.
And for people who haven't got to know a little history on you, Coach, you played, you're a great athlete in high school. You played a little college ball. You even played a little D-League, right? You tried out for the D-League as well?
It was the CBA and the ABA. Had a lot of summer circuits with that, so it was pretty fun. The high school era, I was a little bit too short at the time. I grew up in the Keon Clark area, who was also my cousin, and he's definitely, that whole era was tough. Had to be, athletic. So I knew what it took, and even to the professional level, the ABA, the St. Louis Rottweilers, I really about close to made both teams. It just came down to conditioning, and that was really what taught me a lesson. And the valuable part for me was being a floor general, and that was always pretty much called at every camp I've been to. And being the shortest guy but the loudest voice, it could be intimidating. You're talking to trees, you're talking to bigger guys, but it was a way of respect, and I think that's what I bring to the table as far as unity, chemistry, and allowing the guys to play together.
Now, where else have you coached? You've had some coaching history. This is actually your first professional coaching history. But you've coached some other ranks as well. Where else have you coached?
All the high schools here, both Schlarman Academy with the girls and assisting with the boys even this year. Also with the Danville High School girls, I was assistant coach there. Also, two schools. Let's see, Southview was where I first started, Southview Middle School, and then Northridge, where I found a lot of success there, winning a lot of championships there, even at the regional level. So it's been a long entrepreneur for me, and I'm still excited about it. Being this be my debut as a professional coach, I'm definitely excited about that. I'm no stranger to the game, and I really want to, get out there and get my hands dirty.
Now, you are being from the area, you know the community very, very well.
Yes.
And so I imagine when you meet these guys coming up here this weekend in Chicago, and next weekend's Indy, correct?
The next trial will be September 20th, and that'll be at Danville Area Community College.
Perfect. So if you're looking for, maybe make grow your basketball team, grow your basketball profession. If you're looking for that opportunity,
please,
it's right out there. I mean, it's right here in the community. You've got opportunities everywhere, and maybe you go up to Chicago and maybe you guys, see something that nobody else does.
Yes, and we're looking for that. When we get to the part of September 20th and 21st, you can register for that at DanvilleRiverHawks.com for a lot more information. And we're looking to do that for 2 days. It's a Saturday and a Sunday from 9 to 4. And I'm told it's going to be a madhouse. I'm told I've watched a little trash talking on Facebook and all of that. So it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to see how the guys come out and turn out.
Well, it should be fun. You got, because you have a lot of homegrown talent here.
Yes.
And not just guys who have played a little college ball. You've got, some older guys that can probably play too, and you've got some younger guys. You should have a great mix right here in Danville and from around the surrounding area coming out to DACC to do that. So, that'll be a fun thing. Now, let's go into a little bit about what you guys are doing in the community. Okay. You guys, as you said, just had met with the Boys and Girls Club, had a back to school, little camp, little teach. What else you got coming up?
Well, the owners will be having some more things coming up. They are reviewing currently a lot more partnership with the school. So the President Devin Johnson met with our superintendent of schools here, and so we're looking to really jump in there and see what we can do to participate and be inclusive and really help our education system.
Yeah, and you guys also are looking to do a kids club as well, correct?
Yes. So we have our Junior RiverHawks program is really what it is, and we call it a mentor program because we really want to be able to just be an inspiration to the kids, if their aspiration is to be a doctor or an athlete. We really just want to push them in a positive direction.
And that's awesome. That's why, you don't see a lot of that anymore either with professional teams. So for you guys to do that, really get the kids involved is a huge, huge step in going the right direction. Now, you guys will be playing at the David S. Palmer Arena.
Yes.
Tickets are available.
Yes, sir.
Where
online.
Can they get tickets?
They can get tickets online right now today, even season tickets. That is DanvilleRiverHawks.com. Again, that's DanvilleRiverHawks.com.
Now, have you had a pretty good turnout so far? Have you got some tickets sold? Or you think some guys are kind of, people are kind of waiting to see who's on the team? What you got?
Well, it is important that we introduce soon after the trials are all over with. I think that's when really things are really going to get well as far as statistically what the ticket sales and all that would do. But right now we just really are trying to build the program from the team aspect, introduce that team to our city, and then really go from there.
And yeah, you guys are starting exactly from scratch. I mean, there's no foundation, nothing. You're having to build the foundation and grow it up, and you're going at it the right way. Coach, now, what are you really expecting in your first year?
I'm going to reach really high and say this. I'm going to go out on the limb and really put it out there. I'm expecting a championship in our first year, and that's hard to really say. But I believe that if you're going to reach for anything, you might as well reach far. I'm a firm believer of that, and so I'm going to reach out there and say we're going to really go in our inaugural season and go for the championship and go all the way.
Now, I also saw you guys are part of the PBL.
Yes.
And I just saw that the Toronto Raptors, are looking to have one of the PBL teams come in and be their D-League affiliate.
Yes.
So for you guys to grow on that and possibly have that down in the future, that's huge.
It's really huge. And that's our goal. We really want to push this thing to where we can be a part of we'll hopefully be like the 19th team to be next in line to really push that. We really have the fan base. We have the community. We have the arena. So we really are in position for something like that.
And that's one thing the RiverHawks have. If you're not very familiar with the PBL, you guys actually will have one of the nicest facilities to play ball games in all of the league because you've got the David S. Palmer Arena. And I know a lot of people say, the Palmer Arena needs updates. Well, guess what? It is. It's coming.
That's right.
It's coming. So not only is it a nice stadium where you've got stadium seating already.
Yes.
You've got the whole floor. You'll have floor seats. You'll have a little bit. It is the perfect situation for you guys.
Is.
And so I think everybody's excited. Everybody's a little anxious. And I know you are too.
I am.
So, Coach, what could you tell fans that to expect here in the next coming, say, month? Because I had Devin in not too long ago, and we talked, and I like to keep everybody updated on the RiverHawks. So in the next month or so, what can we see from the RiverHawks organization?
I would say you can expect us to really do more outreach from this point. We're really going to go back into the school system. We just just did our initial test flight with the Junior RiverHawks at the Boys and Girls Club. So you can expect us to get more involved with the school system. We're going to be very present among our community.
Now, will you guys wait till you have a full team to kind of announce the team, or if you sign a guy after the Chicago tryouts this weekend, are you going to say, hey, here he is, get excited?
Well, I don't know. The owners, Devin and Floyd, they really keep it they like to surprise our community. I tell you that. I almost spilled the beans when I after my interview and all that. They were telling me, no, just hold it, and so they're really good at presenting those types of surprises, and usually it happens around noon. They usually pick that time to really let it out.
Now, you guys are on Twitter as well.
Yes.
If you want to follow the RiverHawks, you're on Twitter. You're on Facebook as well.
Yes.
There's DanvilleRiverHawks.com. You have so many avenues to reach people, and social media is such a huge way. Now, will there be specials that people can buy tickets to as well once the RiverHawks really get going here in the next? Because really, you're less than 6 months away from opening tip.
Yes, there's not a lot of time, and we're really trying to get everything together. And I think the president of the organization, Devin Johnson, is going to release a lot of those things. In fact, I think he has a few partnership surprises coming up too. So usually that happens in between Twitter, all of the social media networks. He uses all of those to network surprises that'll be coming up, and you just have to watch it. And it's been pretty good. I mean, our Facebook page is about 1,200 strong now, so that's amazing.
It is. It's got great support. I'm a member of the page as well. I follow you guys on Twitter, and Devin and you guys have done a fantastic job, Coach.
Thank you.
I appreciate you coming in today greatly. We'll keep up to date. We'll keep in contact, and here and after tryouts here in the next month or so, we'll get back together and we'll see what the RiverHawks have to offer.
Let's do it.
A plan?
Sounds like a plan.
Coach Kris Bell joining me here on the Press Box today, the Danville RiverHawks head coach. I want to thank Coach Kris Bell, the Danville RiverHawks. I want to thank Coach Scott Warren, the Flora Wolves head football coach. And I want to thank Matthew Gocken, of course, for coming in for episode 4 of the Press Box. And I want to thank all of you for listening. This has been the 4th episode of the Press Box. Stay tuned. Sports are just getting started with high school football, pro football, and MLB playoffs and everything in between. You've listened to the Press Box with Keith Gibson.
Today, I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth.
Hello, you play to win the game.